Good morning, everyone. Let's do this. 214, actually, good afternoon or good evening. Hopefully, you guys are watching this before midnight. Some of you, holy cow, you're staying up way too late. But at least I'm glad you are watching this today, okay? 214, what makes zero? Using zero to simplify algebraic expressions. Today, you will continue your work with rewriting algebraic expressions. As you work with your team, ask yourself and your teammate to focus questions. So that here are the things I want you to focus on today. How do you see it? How can you write it? And is your expression as simplified as possible? Please try to keep that in mind. How do you see it? How can you write it? And is your expression as simplified as possible? Those are the things I want you focused on as we're doing this. And of course, as I'm going here and getting this, I don't have my little changer thing. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Okay, so I want you to read these two stories right now, problem 234. And again, on your paper should say clearly 2.1.4. Please always write those at the top of the page, really nice and big, so that you know what to upload to this video, okay? 214, problem 234, likely story. Imagine the following situations. Please read those two situations right now, pause the video, read them, and tell me, what do you see in common? What is there in common with those stories? Go. Okay, I do hope you paused the video. Let's talk about it. What was similar about those two stories? Well, have you noticed, and if you know football, maybe you do, maybe you don't, they gained 12 yards. So they moved up ahead 12 yards. Woohoo! But then on the next play, they got sacked, and the ball went 12 yards back. And where did they end up? Where they started. Or the second one, you start at the beach. You dig a hole in the sand. Woo! Dig a hole, okay? And you move the sand and you put it next to the hole on it. And somebody comes along and pushes that sand back in the hole. What ended up happening? What ended up happening? You ended up how you started. Now you're like, what on earth does that have to do with anything? I don't get it. Well, today we are talking about, if you notice, look at this, using zero to simplify algebraic expressions, using zero. So these two expressions here are both ways to show zero. Gaining 12 yards and then losing 12 yards, you end up at a total of zero. Digging a hole and then filling it back in, you end up back with zero. Well, that's the same thing we're talking about today as we're talking about some algebra calc. So back for 234, please just indicate they both end up showing zero. That's what you should write for 234. They both end up showing zero. Both situations end up showing zero. If you need to pause to write that down, write it down. Okay, do it. Okay, 235. How can you represent zero with tiles on an expression mat? Okay, so an expression mat is something you guys are going to be seeing. Hopefully we talked about it today. I don't know. Sometimes that's a problem about recording the video before we do the class. Don't exactly remember how much we covered or what we covered, but the expression mat has a positive and negative side, remember. With your team, try to find at least two ways, and again, this is you, try to find at least two ways to show this. Be ready to share your ideas. Now, again, I'm sorry that we can't do this as a team, so we're trying to do it just as a class or just kind of on your own. But let's go to it. So here we go. Oh, that's not what I want. Going back to here. Now, by the way, you should all have your equation mats. I'm hoping that you put your equation mats as, or CPM tiles, as something that you can use, you can access all the time, okay? So, I don't know, I didn't necessarily bring up the expression mat. Let's see if I've got an expression. There we go. Oh, no, not there. Okay, algebra tiles. There, okay, cool. Expression mat. So the expression mat right there, what I want you to do is I want you to think about three ways. And by the way, if you didn't know how to get there, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video after I'm done explaining. You're going to go to you're going to go to your CPM book. Go to lesson 213. See that? Lesson 213. If you scroll down to problem, what is that? Problem 223. It has a link to the algebra tiles right there where it says algebra tiles. Click on that and it'll bring you up to this. Okay? So, you're going to pause the video. You're going to go to it, and then what I want you to do is I want you to think of three ways, one or two or three, some ways to show zero on the expression mat. Zero. What do you think? How could you think you could do that? So pause it now and try it. Okay, do you think you came up with the way? I hope you did, okay? We're just gonna use unit tiles. And this is very important because we're talking about ways to show zero. And so these are critical. You need to have these down. And I do want you to sketch it on your paper. So on your paper, when we sketch these, we're going to do a simple expression mat. So the expression mat, look, on your paper, just like this. Boom, boom, positive, negative. Just draw that. Got it? So please draw that right now for 235. Here is one way to show zero. Did you come up with this? Not what you see up there currently. Hold on. Because that right there, this right here is 2, isn't it? So how can I show 0? Well, think about what we did today. Boom. That is 0, a positive and a negative. If you have one and you take away one, or have one and have a positive one and a negative one, this right here is called a 0 pair. Now, I think you know that from before. I think you've had it. And we're going to shade them in. Okay, I'm going to shade it in now, or write them in. Sorry, write them in on your paper. And by the way, I do believe on your paper or on your tiles, look at this. It does clarify. Where does it say? Oh, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Shaded in is positive. Unshaded is negative. So positive, you have to do some work to make it positive. You have to shade it in to make it positive. So keep that in mind. So right here, when you draw it, one of them should be shaded in to imply positive. One unshaded. And please write this right here. What I'm doing right now is what you should have on your paper. This is a 0 pair. We call it a 0 pair because they're a pair of tiles. A pair is 2. So a pair of tiles, one positive, one negative, the exact same thing, cancel out because they are opposites. Okay? So that's a 0 pair. Was there another way to show 0 though? Did you come up with another way to show 0? I hope so. Okay? Here is another way to show 0. Like that. Why? Because the value of this one is positive, but the value of this one is positive 1, but it's in the opposite region, technically making it a negative. So this is a positive 1 and a negative 1. This is also a 0 pair. This is also a 0 pair. Okay, a positive 1 and a negative 1. So please do again on your notes. Draw another one here and just put a unit tile shaded in and another unit tile shaded in. And they must both be shaded. They have to both be shaded. Because here's the question: what if they're not shaded? What if this bottom one here is a negative? Look at that. Is that a 0 pair? Well, let's see. The value of this one up here is 1, and the value of this down here is the opposite of negative 1, and the opposite of negative 1 is technically 1. So actually, when you have this right here, the value is 2. Be careful, please, okay? It has to be the exact same tile, positive or negative on both areas there, okay? All right. For now, that is it. Those are the 2 main ways that we're going to show 0, okay? So 0, you should have this on your paper. It should be these 2 ways, positive, negative, positive, and a negative. Both of these are 0 pairs. Okay? Please make sure you have that written down. That is really important. We're going to use it so much, okay? Now, the next part here. Next problem, last problem we're doing here together, problem 236. Gretchen used 7 algebra tiles to build the expression below. Okay, see that expression right there? Build this collection of tiles on your expression mat. Now, I would love for you to physically do it. Unfortunately, I can't do that. But what you can do is you can go to today's lesson. Since you already have it up, please go to today's lesson, or your book. Go to lesson 214, pause the video, go to 214, and then come down, the likely story here, the story we talked about. But if you come down to problem 236, go to 236, and right here, see this 236 eStudent tool? Click on that link. When you click on that link in your book right now, after I'm done telling you, it's going to bring up this screen. So please pause the video, and if you didn't pay attention, go back and figure it out. But bring up this screen, okay? And then I'll explain what to do. So pause, go. Okay, if you unpause, that means you are at this screen now, okay? Great. Okay, you've got that screen brought up. Let's talk about what they want us to do here. So what they want us to do, build this collection of tiles, oh, we did that. B, represent, oh, this is just challenging. Represent the same value 3 different ways, each time using a different number of tiles. Be ready to share your representation with the class, okay? So we're gonna build it showing a different amount of tiles every single time, okay? Well, there you go. How could I do that? Oh, wait a minute, is that a little different than in the book? Look, 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 look. Oh no, I guess it's the same. Okay, cool. All right, so right now, here's your challenge. Challenge number 1, can you build that a different way? On your paper, you are gonna sketch this, okay? So, please sketch it right now. Look, positive, negative, nothing fancy. Look, I'm just gonna do, shade it in, remember it's shaded, and then another. And you don't even have to draw it the exact same way or the exact same place they have it there. But I do want you to draw them. Now, we are gonna do a lot of times where we draw. I will try to pause so that you can have time to draw. But there you go, that's a sketch of it, okay? So what I want you to do is right next to it, build me a sketch of the exact same quantity, value, the value of that with a different number of tiles. Got it? Okay. I'm not gonna give you a hint. I wanna see, pause the video, try it, and then unpause it when you're ready. Okay, so I hope you realize there's a couple things you could have done. Number 1, how many of you realized that this right here is a what? That is a 0 pair. That is 0. Positive x, negative x, positive x and the opposite of x. Whatever x is, if this is positive, this is 5, this would be negative 5. So 5 and negative 5 would cancel out. So that is a 0 pair. That would go away. So I could have this. That is the same as that. It is the same because those canceled out. And that's using a different number of tiles. So that's one way to do it. This is way number 1. Okay? Anyone come up with a different way? Well, how many of you caught that this is a 0 pair? And therefore I could have gotten rid of that. And so I could have positive, negative, and I could have positive x, negative x, and then just 1, 2. And these should be positive as well. Ooh, I forgot to shade these in. Did you catch me on that? Okay. So that could have been one way as well. This should have been shaded in as well. Ooh, that was bad. Okay. That's another way to show it. But some of you might be like, but Mr. Mears, can't I also get rid of these? Could I get rid of all of that? You know what? You could, because they're both 0 pairs, so they both equal 0. So I could just end up with that. So I could have then, whoa, that was a horrible rectangle there. And I could just end up with an x here and 2 down here. But you know what? There's something else I could do. All of those situations, all of those scenarios depended on removing tiles. What if I said don't remove tiles and make it the same value? What could you do then? Well, one thing I could have done is go here. And if I do that, isn't that the same value still? Because right here, the quantity this is 0. That's a 0 pair. And if I add 0 to something, what does it do to it? Absolutely nothing. You're like, Mr. Mears, why would we do that? This is so dumb. Why would we do extra work? Well, you know what? In this situation, yes, it does seem to be more work, and it kind of seems to be weird. But we're going to need to know that because later on, adding tiles, adding 0 pairs is something critical that's going to help us out. Okay? All right, please have that copied down. Please have at least 2 to 3 ways to show the same value with 0 pairs, canceling out or adding. And when you are done, that's all you got to do for today. So tomorrow we will finish this lesson. Have a wonderful evening. Please make sure you've turned in your notes and video from today's lesson, the one we did in class, and have a wonderful day.